Thanks, Diane. I have a question mark, a major issue for this review. It seems a bit like the capital gains tax debate, and we keep reinventing it, and it comes up and it's mentioned in the review, and then it's mentioned in the next review. So, sorry to start on a little bit of a querulous note there, but it's a really, really important issue. So David has emphasised how the rest of the world looks to New Zealand as a model. Here we've got this wonderfully simple system made up of the universal super plus the auto-enrolment. It has all these wonderful characteristics that it's managed well by a simple clearinghouse. It's fully portable. It has wonderful characteristics. But we can perhaps be just a little bit too complacent. So the clue is, of course, that the Kiwi Saver delivers a lump sum and that people are on their own to try to manage that. So when we look at this review and we look at the terms of reference, yes, decumulation is in the terms of reference. So it is hopefully going to be an important part. But my question is, where is it going to go? So I think back to the efforts that we've made in the Retirement Policy Research Centre. 2012, some of you here, we had a full day looking at decumulation. And then again in 2014, we had a full day here looking at decumulation issues. And all of that material is up on our website. So this is the 2014 event, and there's the list of all of the PowerPoints and the discussion we had after the presentations. We had workshops. And the intent of that review was that we would deliver, through workshops, some sort of serious, fully formed ideas for the government to act on. Well, of course, that didn't happen. As has been mentioned already, 2013 review did have a recommendation, strong recommendation, that the Retirement Commission would be a broadly representative review to determine the viability of different approaches to the voluntary annuitisation of savings. So the word annuity was in there. And then again, in the 2016 review, we get another mention of decumulation. But where's it all going, and is that going to be the fate after this current review? So just going back for a minute to the first slide that I put up this morning about what we think we are aiming to do with our retirement income policies, and talking about those ones highlighted in red, making sure people have enough to go on and participate, and certainly not doing that very well for an increasing number of people, as we've been hearing about today. But that would probably seem to be what we would like to be doing. As far as income continuance is concerned, having a little bit of extra income to top up New Zealand superannuation, what are we doing about that? And how much money is needed to top up New Zealand super to give people a standard of living that allows them to fully participate and belong? And Richard, I think because you didn't go through all your slides in very much detail, you missed one, where you actually say that the amount that people need is probably another 250 a week. It was on the slide, wasn't it? Yes. So that's a good ballpark figure of what would be really nice for people to have in addition to New Zealand super. Just a little bit of history. Of course, we had that talked about already, that most countries have been away from defined benefit schemes, and of course in New Zealand we moved very rapidly after the changes in the early 1990s. And if we look at the statistics, and this comes from 2013 figures, we see that there's only around 50,000 working age people remaining in a defined benefit scheme. And young people don't even know what we're talking about. These are schemes that deliver an income that goes on for as long as you live. And it's obviously clear that as time goes on, that we're going to see fewer and fewer working age people in those kind of schemes. What about the lucky generation, the generation currently retired? Of that generation, in 2013, there was about 1 in 10 with some sort of supplementary private pension. And 2 out of every 3 of those pensions were from the government superannuation fund. And I just wanted to talk briefly about that. If we look at the annuities that come out of the government superannuation fund that are in payment, 2013 figures, you can see that there are numbers that are fairly large annuities, but 50% have got annuities that are less than 40,144. Now that's still a useful amount of money, but it's not a massive amount of money. And what we're looking for in the future, of course, is fewer and fewer people who have that kind of top-up. And we're missing an opportunity to find out about the annuitant population. So what should we be asking? We've heard a bit today about how people probably need to be changing their expectations about keeping their capital intact and moving into methods, that they need to be encouraged to think that they should be drawing down that capital and looking after themselves in retirement. What about those people who currently have a pension? So they've alienated their capital to have this annual lifetime pension. We should be asking them, do they regret that decision? Do their children regret it? My observation would be that the children probably wouldn't know what it is about. Has it made a difference having this kind of an annuity? Welcome. And is inflation important? Of course, the government superannuation fund pensions have been inflation-proofed. So, the Government Superannuitants Association have actually been asking some questions, and they have some of these little quotes up on their website, and that's quite interesting. But we need to do more of it. We need to find out, are annuities important? They're important in other countries. New Zealand is quite different and quite odd in not having very much to do with annuities. So I want to ask this question of you. Do we all agree that we know what the problem is? We've got New Zealand super there, and it's the perfect annuity. Now, is that enough? Is that actually enough? Or is there a problem? And I'm talking here about middle-income people. So unfortunately, we know we've got a large low-income group, and that group is growing and has enormous problems. But as has been said, we've got to look at other policies to deal with that. We can't really expect retirement income policies to do it all. So if we can't, what are we doing for middle-income people to enable them to have that extra? So I am unashamedly concentrating on middle-income people here. And what actually happens to these people? They get their lump sum, they might use it up too quickly, as we've heard. We don't have well-developed home equity release products. There's barriers to those, all sorts of problems with them. Difficult to insure against outliving savings, investment inflation risk is real. The risk of expensive health care at the end of life, that long-term care cost, is enormous. And I should also put in these, I wanted to ask Matthew this morning about health projections. We know that our public health system is on its knees. And we know that many people over 65 are having to wait for their cigarettes and their replacements and everything else. We need a massive injection of spending. I'm worried that that's not factored in to those projections, because when I look at what's happening to the demographic change, I'm becoming very, very worried about it and how expensive it's going to be to care for that older generation. And it's been mentioned already today that in desperation many older people rely on rental income to provide them with synthetic annuities, David said, and that's not a huge problem. Management when you're older of the rental property is not all beer and skittles, might be a lot of beer But there's another issue, and it's also been touched on. Nari mentioned dementia. Unfortunately, when people have lump sums and they lose cognitive ability and they're looking to manage those lump sums for the rest of their lives, it becomes impossible. They become open to fraud and abuse. And we have to take that seriously. So, it's the lack of action, because actually we don't need to worry about this at all, because the private market will solve it. And we look at the different risks, actually, and you ask with your insurance hat on, how insurable are those risks? And there are uncertainties largely, they're not risks, so they're uninsurable. And that's why we don't have an annuities market. I'll come back to you in a minute. Because the market fails. There's huge market failure in this area if the government does absolutely nothing. And just quickly looking at the different problems with private insurance. First of all, the uncertain longevity that people face. And where you have drawdown products that are based on particular life expectancy, average life expectancy, that's all very well and fine, but look how many people live beyond the actual average life expectancy. It's huge. And of course, in the latter part of life, they're going to need extra money. Even if they're getting rest home subsidy, you're still going to need extra money for all sorts of things. So, inflation. Now, people who really talk about this topic before probably become quite tired of me quoting my father's situation with his 42 years of the government superannuation fund annuity inflation adjusted. So I thought I'd talk about my grandfather. He was a station master. And he retired at 51 to make room for another worker in the Depression to take his place. And he had 35 years of retirement. He retired with a pension of £400, and by the time he died, it was worth very, very little. And that was a huge lesson to my father, who didn't capitalise any of his teachers' lump sum from the government super fund, all as an annuity. And in his case, it started off about $3,000 in 1972 and was inflation adjusted, so by the time he was needing to be looked after at the age of 101, then it was about 36,000. And that's just a simple CPI adjustment. 3 minutes. Right. Well, maybe I won't labour this one, but when private providers of annuities look at gender differences, I think Claire mentioned the fact that women live longer than men, and that's shown in this graphic here. They go, oh good, we can see that difference, we're going to make annuities different for men and women. And so women don't get as much of an annuity for a given lump sum as a man. And depending on the perspective, maybe it's the advantage of women to live longer, and so therefore they deserve to have less, or whatever. But New Zealand's super is gender neutral, and what is needed is gender neutral annuities. We've got to get away from this insurance type thinking. End of year, the risk, another risk that I had up that, of course, insurance markets don't pay well with is needing expensive end-of-life care. And what we have now is quite a draconian income and asset test. You're going to spend your assets down to a very small amount, and then all your income is going to be taken as well before you qualify for a subsidy. So this is a risk. People ought to be able to insure against it. However, the private market does not provide the product. It requires government intervention. And we can wait forever for the private market to evolve these kind of products. It won't happen. As New Zealand is a case study of that. However, there is a fledgling annuities market that Diana has alluded to. And set up by Rob Stewart, is out there in the marketplace offering an annuity to retired people, and it's got all sorts of nice little provisions in it that you can have access to your capital, some of them ones
But when you die, it goes to your estate. So those are
yes,
true that
that worry about alienating your capital. And I take my hat off. They have worked so hard to bring this product to market. It is astonishing that they've got this far. However, it's not inflation-proof, and it's only small. It's not dealing with the bulk of this problem. And imagine how much more successful it would be if the government stood behind it with some sort of inflation guarantee, or investment risk guarantee, or longevity risk guarantee. So I'll skip over that. I've only got ones up, thank you. So,
it's your show, Susan.
Keep going.
I'll just steal a minute, because this was from 2014 decumulation event that we put on. I've just got that slide out, and that orange arrow points to where we were at 5 years ago in terms of the retirement of the baby boom generation. Now we're travelling up that line with the baby boomers nearly all, or they're all retired by 2030. And that's when the rot sets in, because they're now going to be swelling the numbers of those over 85 at the bottom. That is going to increase really rapidly. We're running out of time to deal with this problem as an insurance issue, because you want a large pool of people in order to share the risk. We could grasp this really urgently. We've got our simple retirement system. What about adding on something like a default into a yearly spending product that's underpinned by the state and has all sorts of attractive advantages, inflation proofing, maybe trebles when somebody goes into care so that they can pay for their care with New Zealand superannuation. Don't have time to go through all those things, but that's the sort of thing I hope will be discussed in this review and taken seriously.